Jennifer Smith, and today I will be discussing the heat event in Western Canada. Let's begin with the general weather scenario. A ridge of high pressure located, can you please, next slide, please. Thank you. A ridge of high pressure located over Western North America is setting up a prolonged heat event in Western Canada. While the core or the epicenter of the heat is located further south over Northern California, it is expanding north and east this week. High pressure causes air to sink and dry out, reducing cloud cover and leading to hot temperatures. Environment and Climate Change Canada's meteorologists have been monitoring this high pressure system as it develops. Weather offices across Western Canada have issued heat warnings for part of British Columbia, Southern Northwest Territories, Alberta, and part of Saskatchewan presently. In terms of just how hot it is going to get, the forecast varies by region due to the diverse geography in the West. But broadly speaking, daytime highs are forecast to be 30 to 35 degrees Celsius, with some locations exceeding 35 degrees Celsius in parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan, and southern interior BC, where temperatures in the low 40s are forecast. Nighttime temperatures are expected to be in the mid to high teens for the period, limiting overnight cooling. This is especially true east of the Rockies later in the week, with the expected humid conditions making for muggy nights and overnight lows closer to 20 degrees Celsius. This will exacerbate health risks since it will deprive people without access to cooling of the chance for temporary relief. Relatively cooler temperatures can be found near the water and at higher elevations in the mountains. These may be options to escape the heat depending on where one lives. The heat warnings issued by Environment Canada contain messaging developed in collaboration with Health Canada, recommending a range of heat safety measures, such as relocating to a cooler location or a cooling center, and recognizing the signs of heat illness. This is the first widespread heat event of the year for Western Canada. The area has had a few hot days so far this year, but southern BC, for instance, has had a cool May and June, so residents' bodies are not acclimated to the heat. It's important to think about how to prepare for this event and to support those who are most vulnerable to the impacts of extreme heat. Next slide, please. Above normal temperatures developed across southern BC over the weekend. The heat will continue there and expand east, affecting Alberta and southwestern Northwest Territories today, Saskatchewan by Tuesday, and spreading into Manitoba by Wednesday. Referring to the scale on the left, the shading on the map corresponds to how abnormally high the temperatures are forecast to be, where the most abnormally high temperatures can be seen shifting southeast through the week. This warm spell is likely to linger into next week, particularly across southern BC and the Prairie provinces, though it's a bit early to offer a high confidence forecast this far into the future, but with many outdoor events ongoing, for example, the Calgary Stampede or the Winnipeg Folk Festival, it's encouraged to take extra precautions against the heat. Drink lots of water, stay in the shade, and arrange for regular checkups on family members, neighbors, and friends in case they may need help. Next slide, please. It is important to note that while this heat event is significant and impactful, particularly for its projected duration, it is not the same as the 2021 heat event. In 2021, heat warning thresholds were met and then surpassed by an enormous margin. All-time national records were broken. This does not happen every year or even every few years. That was truly an anomalous and extreme heat wave. The highest temperatures forecast for this event are expected to be lower for the areas that saw the worst heat in 2021. Further to that, the 2021 event did not impact Saskatchewan and Manitoba, but this one will, in the form of a long-duration humid heat event. With the current heat event, several daily records may be broken across the region throughout the event, but all-time records should not be threatened. These hot and dry conditions will heighten wildfire risks, particularly where there are existing fires or there is a precipitation deficit, such as in northeastern BC, northern Alberta, and the Northwest Territories. Air quality is already poor in these regions, and air quality advisories have been issued. Lastly, extreme heat can affect everyone's health. We need to take care of each other, especially our vulnerable populations. Stay informed about weather warnings where you are and check on friends and family who are vulnerable to the heat and make sure they have access to someplace cool. Next slide, please. To access the latest weather information, watches, warnings, and advisories, please download the WeatherCan app, visit us on our website or social media, phone into Hello Weather, or tune into Weather Radio. I will now pass the microphone to my colleagues at Health Canada to speak to the health impacts of this heat event and their recommendations for staying safe. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jen. Well, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Peter Barry, and I'm from Health Canada. The current extreme heat event that is affecting many people in Western Canada can pose serious risks to health. Extreme heat can affect anyone. However, Indigenous peoples, older adults, infants and young children, and people with chronic illnesses are at greater risk. This can include people with diabetes, those experiencing mental illness, or those with cardiovascular or lung disease. People experiencing homelessness and people who work outdoors or exercise in the heat are also at greater risk during extreme heat events. Being prepared for hot weather, being able to identify the symptoms of heat illness, and knowing what to do to cool down are critical steps all people in Canada should know to protect themselves and their loved ones. It's important to recognize the signs of heat illness, such as dizziness or fainting, nausea, headache, unusually rapid breathing and heartbeat, or extreme thirst. If you have any of these symptoms during extreme heat, move to a cool place and drink liquids right away. Water's best. Heat illnesses are mainly caused by overexposure to extreme heat or overexertion. These illnesses can include heat exhaustion, heat fainting, heat edema, which is swelling of hands, feet, and ankles, heat rash, and heat cramps. Heat illnesses can also lead to long-term health problems or even death. There are three key things you can do during an extreme heat event. Be informed. Keep up to date with local weather forecasts and alerts, and arrange for regular and frequent check-ins on your family members, neighbors, or friends in case they need help. Get hydrated. Drink plenty of liquids, especially water, before you feel thirsty. And stay cool. The most effective ways to protect yourself from extreme heat while indoors, in addition to staying hydrated, is using air conditioning, blocking the sun by closing awnings, curtains, or blinds during the day, using fans, taking cool showers or baths, making meals that don't need to be cooked in the oven, and spending time in a cool place like a community center or library. And remember, never leave people in your care or pets inside a parked vehicle in summer because it can get dangerously hot very fast. And when there's an extreme heat event occurring with wildfire smoke, prioritize keeping cool because overheating can be more dangerous to your health. We need to also remember that heat stroke is a medical emergency. If you witness someone with complete or partial loss of consciousness, who is confused, has a high body temperature, or has stopped sweating, call 911 or your local emergency number immediately. While waiting for help, take measures to cool the person right away by moving them to a cooler place if possible, applying cold water to large areas of the skin or clothing, and fanning the person as much as possible. So it's important that people should continue to follow the advice of local and provincial health authorities on how to protect themselves and others during this heat event, and to understand what resources are available to help them keep cool in their area. Thanks.
Okay, go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay. Bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle Jennifer Smith et je parlerai de la chaleur de l'Ouest du Canada. Commençons par le scénario météorologique général. Diapositive suivant. Une crête située au-dessus de l'ouest de l'Amérique du Nord est responsable d'un épisode de chaleur prolongée dans l'ouest du Canada. Alors que l'épicentre de chaleur est plus au sud, au nord de la Californie, la masse d'air chaud s'étend au nord et à l'est cette semaine. La crête fait descendre et sécher l'air qui réduit la couverture nuageuse et cause des températures chaudes. Les météorologues d'Environnement et Changement Climatique Canada surveillent l'évolution de ce système de haute pression. Les bureaux météorologiques de l'Ouest du Canada ont émis des avertissements de chaleur pour certaines parties de la Colombie-Britannique, le sud des territoires du Nord-Ouest, l'Alberta et certaines parties de la Saskatchewan actuellement. Pour ce qui est de la température, les prévisions varient d'une région à l'autre en raison de la variabilité géographique dans l'Ouest. Mais les températures maximales diurnes devraient se situer entre 30 et 35 degrés Celsius. Certaines régions dépassent 35 Celsius, dont certaines parties de l'Alberta et de la Saskatchewan, et dans le sud intérieur de la Colombie-Britannique, où des températures de 40 à 42 sont prévues. Les minimums nocturnes devraient être de 15 à 19 degrés Celsius pour la période, limitant le refroidissement nocturne. Cela est particulièrement vrai à l'est des Rocheuses plus tard dans la semaine. Les conditions humides prévues rendant les nuits humides et les minimums nocturnes proches de 20 degrés Celsius. Cela exacerbera les risques pour la santé car cela privera les personnes sans accès à un endroit climatisé la possibilité d'un soulagement temporaire. Des températures relativement plus fraîches sont attendues près de l'eau et à des altitudes plus élevées dans les montagnes. Il peut s'agir d'options pour échapper à la chaleur selon l'endroit où l'on vit. Les avertissements de chaleur émis par Environnement et Changement climatique Canada contiennent des messages sur la santé élaborés en collaboration avec Santé Canada et recommandant une gamme de mesures de sécurité en matière de chaleur, comme se déplacer dans un endroit plus frais ou dans une haute fraîcheur publique et la reconnaissance des signes de maladie causés par la chaleur. La région a connu quelques jours de chaleur jusqu'à présent cet été, mais le sud de la Colombie-Britannique, par exemple, a connu une période de fraîcheur en mai et en juin, de sorte que le corps des résidents ne sont pas acclimatisés à la chaleur. Il est important de réfléchir à la façon de se préparer à cet événement de chaleur et de soutenir les personnes les plus vulnérables aux effets de la chaleur accablante. Diapositive suivante. Des températures supérieures à la normale ont commencé à être observées dans le sud de la Colombie-Britannique au cours de la fin de semaine. La chaleur continuera là-bas et s'étendra vers l'est, touchant l'Alberta et le sud-ouest des territoires du nord-ouest aujourd'hui, la Saskatchewan d'ici mardi et s'entendra au Manitoba d'ici mercredi. En se référant à l'échelle de couleur sur la gauche, l'ombrage sur la carte correspond à l'intensité des anomalies des températures prévues où les températures les plus anormalement élevées se déplacent vers l'est, au sud-est, au cours de la semaine. Il est probable que cette période de chaleur se prolonge pendant une bonne partie de la semaine prochaine, particulièrement dans le sud de la Colombie-Britannique et dans les provinces des Prairies. Il est un peu tôt pour offrir une prévision de confiance élevée loin dans l'avenir, mais avec de nombreux événements en plein air en cours, par exemple le Stampede à Calgary et le Folk Fest à Winnipeg, il est encouragé à prendre des précautions supplémentaires contre la chaleur. Buvez beaucoup d'eau, restez à l'ombre et organisez un suivi régulier des membres de votre famille, de vos voisins et de vos amis au cas où ils auraient besoin d'aide. Diapositive suivante. Il est important de noter bien que cet événement de chaleur soit significatif, en particulier pour sa durée prévue, il n'est pas aussi significatif que l'événement de chaleur de 2021. En 2021, les seuils d'avertissement de chaleur ont été atteints et largement surpassés. Des records nationaux ont été battus. Cela ne se produit pas chaque année, ni même toutes les quelques années. Les températures les plus élevées prévues pour cet événement devraient être plus basses dans les régions qui ont connu la pire chaleur en 2021. De plus, l'événement de 2021 n'a pas eu d'incidence sur la Saskatchewan et le Manitoba, mais celui-ci affectera ces régions. Il prendra la forme d'une chaleur humide de longue durée. Avec la chaleur actuelle, plusieurs records quotidiens peuvent être battus dans la région pendant cet événement, mais les records historiques ne devraient pas être battus. Ces conditions chaudes et sèches augmenteront les risques de feux de forêt, particulièrement où il y a des incendies ou un déficit de précipitation est observé, comme dans le nord-est de la Colombie-Britannique, le nord de l'Alberta et les territoires du nord-ouest. La qualité de l'air est déjà mauvaise dans ces régions et des avis sur la qualité de l'air ont été émis. Enfin, la chaleur accablante peut affecter la santé de tout le monde. Nous devons prendre soin les uns des autres, en particulier de nos populations vulnérables. Restez informés des avertissements météorologiques et consultez les amis et les membres de votre famille qui sont vulnérables de la chaleur et assurez-vous qu'ils ont accès à un endroit frais. Diapositive suivante. Pour accéder aux renseignements météorologiques, les alertes ou avertissements, les V et les avis, veuillez télécharger l'application MétéoCan. Visitez-nous sur notre site web ou les réseaux sociaux. Téléphonez à Bonjour Météo ou syntonisez votre radio météo. Je vais maintenant céder la parole à mes collègues de Santé Canada qui parleront des répercussions de cette période de chaleur sur la santé et de leurs recommandations pour assurer la sécurité. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Jennifer. Bonjour tout le monde. Mon nom, c'est Éric Lavigne. Je suis de Santé Canada. L'épisode actuel de chaleur accablante qui touche plusieurs personnes dans l'Ouest canadien peut présenter de graves risques pour la santé. La chaleur extrême peut affecter tout le monde. Cependant, les personnes âgées, les nourrissons, les jeunes enfants, les personnes atteintes de maladies chroniques sont les plus à risque, comme les gens qui, par exemple, souffrent de diabète, qui vivent avec une maladie mentale ou ceux qui souffrent de maladies cardiovasculaires. Les personnes en situation d'itinérance et des personnes qui travaillent, qui font des exercices à l'extérieur sont aussi plus à risque lors de périodes de chaleur accablante. Être préparé à la chaleur, être capable d'identifier les symptômes des maladies liées à la chaleur et savoir quoi faire pour se rafraîchir sont des mesures essentielles que tous les gens au Canada devraient prendre pour se protéger et protéger leurs proches. Il est important de reconnaître les signes des maladies liées à la chaleur comme les étourdissements, les évanouissements, les nausées, les maux de tête, une respiration et un rythme cardiaque inhabituellement rapide ou la soif extrême. Si vous ressentez l'un de ces symptômes en cas de chaleur extrême, déplacez-vous vers un endroit frais et buvez immédiatement des liquides, l'eau étant la meilleure option. Les maladies liées à la chaleur sont principalement causées par une surexposition à une chaleur extrême ou à un surmenage. Ces maladies comprennent l'épuisement dû à la chaleur, les évanouissements liés à la chaleur, l'œdème dû à la chaleur, c'est-à-dire le gonflement des mains, des pieds, des chevilles, les éruptions cutanées et les crampes causées par la chaleur. Elles peuvent aussi entraîner des problèmes de santé à long terme ainsi que la mort. Il y a 3 actions clés que vous pouvez faire lors d'un épisode de chaleur accablante. Numéro 1, restez informé. Tenez-vous au courant des prévisions des alertes météorologiques locales. Prévoyez des visites régulières, fréquentes des membres de votre famille, des voisins, des amis au cas où ils auraient besoin d'aide. Hydratez-vous, buvez beaucoup de liquide, surtout de l'eau avant d'avoir soif, et restez au frais. Le moyen le plus efficace de se protéger contre la chaleur extrême lorsque vous êtes à l'extérieur, à l'intérieur, est de rester hydraté, d'utiliser la climatisation, de bloquer le soleil en fermant les auvents, les rideaux, les stores pendant la journée et d'utiliser des ventilateurs, de prendre des douches, des bains frais, de préparer des repas qui n'ont pas besoin d'être cuits au four et de passer du temps dans un endroit frais comme un centre communautaire ou une bibliothèque. Souvenez-vous de ne jamais laisser les personnes, les animaux dont vous avez la garde à l'intérieur d'un véhicule stationné pendant l'été. Le coup de chaleur est une urgence médicale. Si vous remarquez une personne qui éprouve une perte de conscience totale ou partielle, une confusion, une température corporelle élevée ou qui ne transpire plus, composez immédiatement le 911 ou votre numéro d'urgence locale. En attendant les secours, prenez des mesures immédiates pour rafraîchir la personne en la déplaçant si possible vers un endroit plus frais, en appliquant de l'eau froide sur de grandes zones de la peau ou des vêtements et en éventant la personne autant que possible. Les gens devraient continuer à suivre les conseils des autorités sanitaires locales et provinciales sur la façon de se protéger et de protéger les autres pendant cet épisode de chaleur afin de savoir quelles ressources sont disponibles pour les aider à rester au frais dans leur région. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Jennifer, Peter, and Eric. We will now continue with question period section where Jennifer, Armel, Greg, Peter, and Eric can address questions. Nous allons maintenant passer à la période des questions au cours de laquelle Jennifer, Armel, Greg, Peter et Eric pourront répondre aux questions. To ask your question via Zoom, please use the hand raising function or by phone, press *9 followed by *6 to unmute yourself. To be called upon, we ask that you make sure your name and your media outlet are clearly identified in your Zoom name. Veuillez utiliser la fonction main levée si vous avez une question ou sur un téléphone, veuillez appuyer étoile 9 suivi par étoile 6 pour établir le son. Pour poser une question, nous vous demandons de vous assurer que votre nom et votre média soient clairement identifiés dans votre nom Zoom. The first question is from Robert Buffin. Go ahead, Robert, from CTV News, Vancouver.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me now.
We can.
Great. Assuming you can. I guess my first question is, which communities in BC are expected to get the highest temperatures, and how high will they be, along with how many records for heat can we expect today?
Hi, Robert. Thanks for the question. BC is definitely seeing its warmest temperatures over the next couple of days, and we are expecting places, the usual suspects, between Kamloops, Silhouette, Lytton, even into the Okanagan, to perhaps crest into the 40-degree mark. It will be very close. Some places will get to 39, others will maybe get up to 40, 41. So between today, tomorrow, on Tuesday, and starting to see the edge of this event on Wednesday, where we would expect temperatures to be a few degrees cooler, but still quite a bit above seasonal temperatures throughout the rest of the week and even into next weekend.
Go ahead with the
by way of follow-up, I have a question for a colleague, and I'm hoping to sort of jam in another one myself. My colleague's wondering about if somebody, perhaps Armel, could speak to temperatures on the island, and specifically Port Alberni, how hot it'll get there. And I'm also just wondering if somebody can weigh in on this issue of overnight temperatures. I gather they're going to be mid-teens at night. If that's an issue, because I know in 2021 that was part of the problem, was temperatures didn't go down much at night. Is that going to be a similar issue during this heat situation?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rob. First of all, the temperatures for Port Alberni are and have been for the last couple of days getting into the middle 30s. So 35, 36, 37 over the coming 2 days are definitely expected with a relatively high certainty. Overnight, of course, the temperatures are a proxy for humidity, and this air mass for BC in particular is actually quite dry. So we are expecting the temperatures to stay at around 16 degrees for the spine of the island overnight, and that will cause the heat warning to be valid. But we are not looking at the temperatures and that humidity to be present to the point where the temperatures were staying well above 20 degrees, if you'll remember, in late June of 2021. So there's a pretty big distinction between what we saw then and what we are seeing now, and that should start to ease off as well as early as Tuesday night into Wednesday. The temperatures are projected to only reach into the low teens for Port Alberni, Lake Cowichan, places in the middle of the island.
Hey, our next question, notre deuxième question, c'est, je m'excuse, c'est Aaron Schultz. Aaron est avec, je m'excuse. Go ahead, Aaron.
Hi there. Thank you, and sorry for the wait there. Had some technical difficulties on our end. This may have been asked. I wasn't able to catch the first half of the first question and follow up, but it seems like from the graphic that the ridge of high pressure may be going more towards the prairies, escaping the Thompson and Nicola and Shuswap regions in BC's southern interior. It seems like while that ridge is going and the lower temperatures may hit the mid-teens, the daytime highs are still going to be above normal for the foreseeable future. So I'm just wondering what's the forecast for Environment Canada on when maybe residents within the southern interior, like the Thompsons, the Nicola, the Shuswap, would be able to get some normal or maybe below normal temperatures, or when things may slightly cool down?
Hi, Aaron. It's Armel again. Great questions. Yeah, the province is delineated into a variety of different regions because they have different climatologies, what we can expect to see. So places in the South Thompson and part of the Southwest Interior, like Salmon Arm and the Shuswap, need to reach up to 35 degrees during the daytime and overnight stay above 18 degrees. And we are projecting that at least for the next couple of days before things start to taper off very slightly on Wednesday evening. So those locations will remain in the heat warning for the coming few days. The really important thing to note here is that we are projecting temperatures to ease off ever so slightly, but still be really speaking to about 8 to 9 degrees above seasonal still for the remainder of the week. So those will be just shy of the heat warning criteria, but they are not looking to remain or to go below seasonal values, which of course would be closer to 26 degrees during the daytime and 11 overnight. So that is probably true well into the forecast, probably until the end of July at the earliest.
Any follow-up questions before we continue?
Yes, one follow-up. I guess, is there anything on the horizon? I know it's always such a tight window for an extended forecast, but any hint of precipitation for the southern interior once this stretch of above normal temperature and this heat wave is past us?
Yeah, this event, the ongoing part of this event is extremely important, and I'm glad you brought it up. We are seeing the ridge breakdown, which is just a term to say that the troughiness of the atmosphere is going to have a bit of an open door as early as Tuesday afternoon and certainly on Wednesday. And the locations that we're most concerned about, of course, are essentially for the lack of precipitation, but as a front makes its way through the province, and that could bring essentially what we call dry lightning. So lightning associated to an upper feature where there's just not enough moisture yet, and yet the ground is, of course, curing at very high and dry temperatures and humidities. So we are having very close collaborations with the BC Wildfire Service to discuss how to warn our emergency management colleagues, both for Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday, and that will be done today. And again, this could be a very important date that we remember because the wildfire concerns are obviously gaining steam very quickly over the course of an event like this one.
Okay. La prochaine question nous provient de Audrey Nouveau, Radio-Canada Montréal. Voici, Audrey.
Bonjour, est-ce que vous m'entendez bien?
Oui.
Ah, excellent. Merci. Ma question est pour Environnement Canada. J'aimerais savoir pourquoi voit-on des vagues de chaleur en ce moment dans les extrémités du pays, mais pas au centre du pays?
Je peux vous donner une réponse pour commencer, et je suis sûr que mes collègues peuvent en rajouter. Audrey, c'est une bonne question. Pour l'instant, on a un pays qui fait 4 fuseaux horaires et demi, donc c'est extrêmement grand le Canada. Et pour l'instant, on a vu ce qu'on a vu en Ontario, le Québec et des provinces maritimes en fin juin. Et là, on se retrouve à voir une vague de chaleur qui est plutôt basée au sud, comme elle l'a dit Jennifer, en Californie, et qui se propage jusque à nos latitudes aussi. Donc, et ce qu'on va voir, c'est que cette vague de chaleur va se propager éventuellement dans les régions du Manitoba aussi, qui est techniquement le centre du pays. Mais il se peut aussi qu'on voit des patrons météorologiques qui pourraient être plus centrés sur le centre du pays dans les prochaines semaines. Donc, c'est vraiment pas exclusif à une côte ou l'autre, et que le centre du pays n'est pas, il n'y a pas d'immunité à la chaleur et des grandes patrons météorologiques qui bloquent de cette manière.
Et question de suivi, observez-vous davantage de vagues de chaleur tôt dans l'année depuis quelques années au Canada?
Alors, encore une fois, on a vu ça l'année dernière pour le mois de mai. On a vu une vague de chaleur excessivement forte, plus forte encore, et ça nous a donné des températures vraiment qui ressemblaient au mois de juillet, mais au mois de mai. Donc oui, on a déjà vu ça récemment. Il y a eu des études d'attribution justement sur ce phénomène, et je sais qu'on a Dr. Greg Flato qui pourrait peut-être en parler. Donc, c'est ce à quoi on s'attend, des vagues de chaleur qui peuvent commencer plus tôt dans la saison estivale et qui peuvent durer aussi plus tard dans la saison estivale. Donc, de voir du potentiel comme ça qui peut durer jusqu'au mois de septembre, même quand traditionnellement on les voyait vraiment aboutir plutôt vers la mi-août.
Okay. The next question is from Newsnet. Go ahead, Newsnet. Can't hear anybody from Newsnet. One last chance before we switch to the next person. We can always circle back if you get your audio up and working later. La prochaine question au Anne-Marie Trickney, RDI, Alberta. OK. Je pense qu'elle a enlevé les mains. The next question, Jessica Durling, Nanaimo News Bureau. Jessica, go ahead.
Thank you very much. My question is, as you're aware, several heat records were broken yesterday across BC, including our community of Nanaimo. We're wondering what that means for the community and how concerned about this record-breaking heat day, what we should think of that.
Hi there again. Yes, I noticed that as well. The temperatures crested above 33 degrees, 33.3 degrees for Nanaimo. So that was a daily record set back in 2010 was the previous one at 32.2. Yeah, those are obviously large numbers to contend with, and they're anomalous. But just thinking back to what Jennifer Smith mentioned earlier, we are looking at temperatures here that are some things that we see not necessarily every summer, but certainly in the plausible realm of a yearly event, sometimes even twice or three times in a year. So again, the temperatures can break a daily record, but they're not necessarily breaking all-time records or all-time July records. And that's where the distinction is between this event and what we saw in late June of 2021, where the temperatures were reaching well above this, and of course, over several days. And so then kind of all-time records for many, many stations right across BC, and in some cases, the prairies and even into NWT were being eclipsed during that event. And this is much more of a reasonable or normal amount of heat for this time of year.
For a follow-up question, thank you so much. When will this heat wave be expected to die down for the Vancouver Island region?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was alluding to a bit of a changing air mass, and we're going to see some impacts from the Pacific, really, which is our Mother Nature's air conditioning for the South Coast, particularly Vancouver Island. So, as early as, tomorrow we'll still see similar temperatures. I'll say that right away. 32, 33, 34 degrees is certainly possible. And of course, we'll remember that places like Nanaimo are right on the water. So places that are closer to the water will see temperatures probably a hair below that. But others into the inland sections could approach what Port Alberni will see in parts of the elevated regions around Nanaimo. So 35, 36 degrees, certainly not impossible there. But come Wednesday, the temperature will start to diminish by about 4 or 5 degrees, getting up into the upper 20s. And then by Thursday, we'll see the temperatures, within 2 or 3 degrees of normal conditions, which is 24-degree maximums at this time of year. So we'll be in that 26, 27-degree time frame. Before things warm up again for next weekend, the details remain to be seen, but it doesn't look like as strong or as long of an event, but certainly a couple more days, Saturday, Sunday, are in the forecast as to kind of bumping up closer to 30 degrees again.
Okay. The next question will be going to, pardon me, Shannon Scott, CBC North Yellowknife. Shannon, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I'm wondering if you can paint us a bit of a picture about how this heat wave is going to impact the Northwest Territories. I saw on your maps that the southern part of the territory is going to be the most impacted. So I'm wondering if you can let us know what it's going to look like for us down there and how long it's going to last, and whether we're going to see that push up into the Decho and North Slave as well.
Hi, is Jennifer Smith speaking. Thank you for the great question. Yes, it's definitely, this heat event is definitely extending quite a bit further north. It's the epicenter, as I mentioned before, is centered in California, and it's extending north along the BC coast, and it is stretching into the southern Northwest Territories, but it's not expected to project too much further north than that. The whole system is going to translate east and slowly collapse south, if you will, over the course of time. So it is not expected to extend further north and further into the territory than the regions displayed on the map.
Okay, thank you. Can you just, as my follow-up, can you just paint a bit of a picture for us as to what specifically people in the South Slave will be experiencing? I'm seeing currently heat warnings for Samba Cay, Fort Liard, and Wood Buffalo National Park. Those are the areas that we would cover.
Okay. So I've got that. I'm looking at that as well, and I can see that in addition to heat, there's obviously air quality challenges in the area as well. But looking at heat itself, we're just looking at temperatures probably right around 30, 31 degrees in that time frame. Overnight lows about 14 degrees, so the mid-teens temperatures, and that's going to last for the next couple of days. It looks like it's going to start to cool off as that ridge sinks south, collapse south and east. So things should improve on Thursday, but the next couple of days are going to be hot, around 30 degrees, with overnight lows in the teens. And with the smoke in the area, there's definitely air quality concerns.
Okay, our